These days, it seems like everybody is self-diagnosing a mental health-related condition. And while I'm all for the increased awareness and even the encouraged help seeking that this has led to, I do have some serious issues that I want to bring forth about self-diagnosis. Again, this is not to say there aren't benefits, but as a national certified counselor with her bachelor's in psychology and master's in clinical mental health counseling, I have seen the impact of self-diagnosis on people's ability to receive, as well as be open to actually treating the symptoms that come from whatever it is they're struggling with. When I was working in the counseling center, we saw an increased number of especially adolescents coming in saying that they have this, they have that, they have this, and they need to be treated for it. But when we would do an evaluation, the results would be much different. And that's my first point, is there are counselors who go through extensive training and education to formulate diagnoses. And even then we can be wrong. Why? Because more things get revealed through our sessions. This is why we evaluate and reevaluate, why we test and retest. Sometimes symptoms will get worse, or sometimes we realize there's an underlying comorbidity, or we discover that it actually had nothing to do with you necessarily, but the environment of which you exist in or existed in. Any mental health related disorders can actually be the result of something else. So if you go online and you're reading about this is what anxiety is, this is what depression is, this is what ADHD is, this is what obsessive compulsive disorder is, you're going to see symptoms that you can absolutely identify with, no doubt about it. But you have to maintain perspective. Often, we see these things come out as a result of trauma or environment or health or even other medications or possibly nutrient deficiencies. There are a lot of things at play that often get forgotten when you're just reading something online or you're just watching someone's video that you can identify with. A lot of clients will over-identify with their diagnosis. And something we're taught is to really only share diagnosis if it's going to be beneficial to the client, because we know people can over-identify with it. I'm seeing this so much online now. It's driving me crazy, where people over-identify with symptoms of a disorder instead of recognizing that, okay, these are symptoms. That means that I could treat them or learn how to live with them, cope with them, overcome them. Everything that we see in mental health is really existing on a spectrum. So it's not just you have depression, it's you're dealing with depression, and this is how severe it is. You're dealing with anxiety, but it's anxiety that's related to a fear or a phobia, right? So it's never just a simple, you have this. It's more so you're dealing with this. Let's explore this further. And then you fast forward a bit in the counseling relationship and the client's revealing things to you that you're like, I kind of want to do an assessment for this. You do the assessment and you're like, that makes sense. One of the saddest things that I saw was clients of mine who came in with a slew of diagnoses. And they were like, I have this, I'm this. And that was how they started to see themselves. You're not your eating disorder. You're not your personality disorder. You're not your mood. Okay, there's so many things that could be going on in your life, and you can live your life as you fully. And you don't have to submit to this belief that you're all these things that this DSM-5 outlines you to be. I think that's really limiting on a person. This one is really controversial, and I actually was challenged for this when I brought it up in the counseling center, and I won't go into too many details for it. However, there is such thing as social contagion. And when you see a group of adolescents or adults or people coming in saying, I think I have this, I think I'm dating someone who's this, we see this contagious view of themselves and of the world. And we can't deny the fact that promoting all these videos of, if you do this, you probably have this, or I just recently found out I have da-da-da-da-da, and it's because I da-da-da. Some of those da-da-das are actually a result of environment, or like I said, other life challenges that could be going on. If you are struggling with anxiety, but you're working 4 jobs and you have multiple mouths to feed, and you feel like you never have time in the day, there's a lot more to it than you have anxiety. We have to consider circumstances. We have to consider where someone's at emotionally, physically, financially, socially. There's so much more at play when it comes to mental health that putting people into a box based off of a video online can not just create a contagion, but can also create an overidentification and an unwillingness, this is the last one I'll share, an unwillingness to explore other possibilities. So there's a lack of personal responsibility taken when someone says, well, it's just because I'm blank. So I isolate because I'm socially anxious. I isolate because I'm depressed. I'm always standoffish because I have this. When what we want to do and the goal is to help someone be able to function more freely and effectively in their life as who they truly are and see themselves and desire to be. By always over-identifying with a diagnosis or encouraging other people to do that, we discourage them from living freely from their diagnosis. And then there creates a justification pattern for maladaptive behaviors that come as a result of whatever it is you've been diagnosed with. One of the most common things we saw in the counseling field, and this was not allowed, this is why I'm saying so much of it is insurance-based too, and it's a business, is if someone was diagnosed with an adjustment disorder, it's because we haven't yet gotten enough information to really see what's going on, or there really was something in their life that's changed or occurred that's caused a shift in how they feel or their affect, and now they want to address it. And it doesn't necessarily fit into a particular category. So there's a lot that goes into diagnosing. There's a reason why counselors go to school. There's a reason why they're under supervision. There's a reason why it takes a lot to learn and understand these things. This is complex, very complex. So to put a list of symptoms in a video and say, then you have this, and to actually believe that to be true is not just limiting to you, but it's risky. It's risky to you and it's risky to others. You could say these symptoms could be a result of that, but we don't want to get into that trap of, well, so-and-so said this and they have this, so I do. You're drawing connections that are good, right? You can see the connections and draw them and see, okay, this relates to me. But we have to take it a step further and say, but how do I want to address this? I had clients who would come to me and they would say, I believe I have this. And I would say, well, what would happen if that was true? How would you see yourself differently? Oftentimes, they would feel like they have an answer, right? They have a solution. It makes sense now. That's fair. As humans, we're looking to categorize things. We're looking to make sense of the world. We're looking to make sense of ourselves. As a counselor, something that I really focused on with my clients is overcoming the symptoms that are actually causing issues in their life. We need to figure out how to mitigate the negative impact of when you're facing, you see a video and it's talking about all these symptoms. If you're struggling with those things, think about how could I address and treat those symptoms instead of subjecting myself to the belief that I have this problem forever. You could probably tell I could rant about this for a long time. Those are some of the key points that I wanted to share. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinion. Like I said, I do believe it's helpful to be talking about these things, to be sharing personal experiences, to have these conversations because it's encouraging help-seeking behavior. That's good. We want people to seek help who maybe otherwise wouldn't have. We want people to feel that they can belong and they can relate to others. This is a really healthy thing to have. But if that ends up leading to limiting you, is it really all that healthy? Take it a step further and say, well, what else could there be? What might I not know? What might a professional in this realm be able to support me with to better understand this? Self-diagnosing, if it leads to treatment of the symptoms on your own or self-help in that way, great, or self-exploration, or actually going and getting help, awesome. Self-diagnosis to simply identify with a problem and justify maladaptive behaviors as a result of that problem, don't agree.